up there. I don't know if that was absolutely warranted. Maybe a sideways arrow would have been more fair, but he lost this game, and it hurts.
Yeah, definitely does hurt. And there's a reason why everybody voted for Sue there, 7-0. Looking at results, it's like, okay, this guy is heavily favored, but he's just not showing up some days here. So we are going to get into the next map here. It's INnoVation versus someone else. I actually missed who that was.
It's DeParture. So
DeParture.
It's going to be another TVZ. Switching the races, of course, with the teams. DeParture, someone who definitely is one of the most improved Zergs I think we've had over the past 3 years. A player I was very critical of. I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about.
Back in the day.
Yeah, he just he did not perform. Then he went and won an overseas tournament. It was one of the lesser known tournaments where he actually defeated KT's first, I believe, in the finals with a 4-0. So he has a championship under his belt. I think that was Gfinity. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has a championship under his belt now. He's on MVP. His prime days are long over. And, I like his pose. We make jokes about that. At 3-4, he has one of the strongest records on his team.
Yeah, it's very true. I can think of a bunch of different days where he came in and won his match, and then the rest of his team lost. And we're like, oh man, DeParture, he's on this team, but he's, it's like old-time Creator, where Creator was the only one winning on Prime, and everyone else would lose, and there was no support for him. So definitely a guy that has potential. He's going up against one of the best Terrans, though, that we do have these days. INnoVation getting off to kind of a slow start, but I think in the past couple of weeks, he's been doing a lot better.
I like that INnoVation's tactics are pretty low on the graph there. He's pure macro. He's pure late game. He's not the guy who's going to do the crazy build you've never seen before. 7-0 here again for this god who was until very recently undefeated in Pro League, just like Sue.
Yeah. Well, guys, let's jump into game number 2 right now of INnoVation versus DeParture. Down here in the bottom left, in the orange for SK Telecom T1, the Terran player, it is INnoVation.
And his opponent up in the top for MVP, it is DeParture. Let's talk about esports teams for a little while.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Wolf.
Every esport has a team that goes through periods of dominance, right? And it never lasts forever. But SKT had massive dominance in Brood War. Their players were some of the most successful. Not the most successful. If you look at Flash, he was on KT Rolster. If you look at Jaedong, he was on Hwasong Oz. But when it comes to the team as a whole, they had the most best funding. We went into Starcraft 2. They didn't win the first Pro League, and then they didn't win the second Pro League. But then they won the third, and it looked dominant in the second as well, going all the way to the finals to KT Rolster.
And we called it an upset, too.
Yeah.
KT won. I think it was to an extent.
Now, MVP is one of the most successful GSTL teams as well. Their consistency was amazing, but it didn't carry over into StarCraft 2. They have a great Korean Dota team that's now starting to actually find dominance in Asia. In Heroes of the Storm, they just won the Global Championship. They are 31-0 in their last 31 games they've played in Heroes of the Storm. They are the best team by far. MVP had two of the best League of Legends teams years ago before Samsung kind of absorbed them.
They won one tournament. I think it was Champions.
They won Worlds right after they became Samsung, basically the same team. So MVP right now, though, in StarCraft 2, they have so much history behind them. They have a great coaching staff, but no success this season. And I'm waiting for that to happen because I know they have it in them. This is a solid lineup of players, especially DeParture. I feel like it's one of their best right now.
Yeah, they have some newer, new players like DeParture who are coming in. They've obviously got a great amount of talent, and they're finally finding that experience. They're getting rid of their nerves by playing in more and more of these tournaments. And it's obvious that he's just like a really strong player. And they've also got these guys who are veterans, older players like Ryung, like Gumiho, right? who are going to be in the team house and kind of guide their Dongsangs, the newer players who obviously have got a lot of talent. And I think eventually they will come to a place where they're like a really strong team in StarCraft once again, as long as they keep going along the same path. I mean, if you remember, MVP won round 2 of, I think it was last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
SKT.
It was the billowy moments that they had there, those all-kill formats, where you just look at MVP and go, wow, they have it in them. I know if they're on, they're really on. I think Seed is a great example of a player like this who actually is a GSL champion. Everyone forgets, but he was insanely dominant at periods of time. Like in team leagues specifically, he only won 1 GSL and then didn't do very well otherwise.
Yeah.
But when I see him, when he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's not. But you can see him like run out of the booth and jump and fist pump when he wins. But when he loses, you can see he's really affected by that. We haven't talked much about this game, but as it turns out, like it's been very similar to the past one, except a very, very fast lair for DeParture.
Yeah.
He's got something planned here, and INnoVation also doing safety tanks and a medevac.
Looks like INnoVation going to go for the same build kind of that Ryung went for last time. Just put on a bit of pressure with the tank. He's got a lot more Marines, so he may choose to drop with those as well. But it looks like DeParture is going for
I think it's a nice all-in, right? Yeah. Like, just the lair coming up and the Roach Warren going down. It looks like that was where we're
taking all
going.
the gases. It's not the timing to get the Spire out right when the lair hits. And think about INnoVation. He's lost to this build before. And maybe DeParture's like, how do I prepare for something like INnoVation? Well, I just got to crack the code. It's been cracked once before. And if he's just going through the motions and I sneak a Nidus in his main, well, I could take a best of 1, and that may just happen right now.
It could happen, man. I mean, it's going to get scouted in just a second here, but tanks are not as good at defending this as Liberators. Liberators fly, okay? Tanks do not. If you get overwhelmed with your tanks, you just lose the game. Now he sees the Nidus coming down. He's going to set up bunkers. This is still going to be very difficult to execute. He's going to send this tank home as well. He's got a lot of Marines, so the transfusions need to be instant here.
He's going to Nidus directly onto this army. Here we go. A very slow transfuse there. Only 1 queen gets out. And
looks like he's going to bail on this idea.
Yeah, immediately switches back into the drones. I mean, he does have a 3rd base up, but INnoVation was more than prepared for that. Look at how many Marines he's got in his main. And even just 1 tank, it's enough to burst it down.
He didn't even need the bunker.
Yeah.
If the transfuses went off there, could have been a different story. I also feel like maybe once he saw the Marines move up, maybe using the Nidus at the backdoor overlord he had could have been a little bit more successful. But as it is now, he has some droning to do. He has some catching up to do in other respects. He's getting Roach speed. He may just try to go for a follow-up attack at the front of the base. Maybe hit the 3rd base once INnoVation puts that down. But INnoVation in a very comfortable lead as a result from this failed Nidus.
Yeah, I mean, we do see a huge amount of droning up now, and I think he will be able to continue putting on a bit of pressure with what he's already got, as you were saying. But DeParture definitely going to have to make something work here. INnoVation being annoying with these flying tanks coming in.
Yep.
And he just got to get some queens possibly in here, but he just doesn't have that many due to the build he went for. He's only got 3 right now. But you have to push the medevacs away, or this just never ends.
Dusk Tower is a map where you can hit the ramp in this little corner, and Lings can't help deal with this. Otherwise, a lot of players would just make Lings and kind of camp the tanks so they couldn't land. And he's gone for a Roach comp, so INnoVation knows he can basically sit up here and do this. And every time the Roaches have to run around because it's a little gap where the tanks can sit right below the ramp, then go back up. And I have to say, personally, I feel like the Tank-evac is the coolest thing that's in Legacy of the Void. Like, I think it's my favorite new addition to this game. It just allows for cool plays like this. He's getting punished so hard for the build he chose. INnoVation has to have such good multitasking to pull this off and still macro at home, and it really showcases his skills here.
Yeah, he's a macro god. There's a reason why he is able to do this. Some other Terran players maybe would have already lost the 2 medevacs and they would have to just go back home, but by that time they would lose the tanks too. So shout outs to INnoVation for doing a great job. You see DeParture desperately trying to shut this down by making 3 queens at a time, but he's still having so much trouble.
Another queen gets killed here and just picks up, runs away. 1 Tank-evac will get killed there. Oops. But he did this, he defended this or attempted to defend this. I'd say he sustained a ton of damage without a single Zergling, just pure Roach, which again kind of leads towards this Roach Ravager composition we saw Sue try to use last game. Maybe a different reason why he opened with it, because he was kind of trying to do an all-in. Now he's trying to make these roaches work in a comp. But I worry for him here the same reason I worried for Sue last game, especially because there's already so many tanks out on the map.
Yeah, we got 3 in the sky. It looks like he's just going to drop them back down and defend at the 3 bases that he's got for now. One thing that DeParture has done is, like, even with the build that he chose, he still has got his upgrades ahead of INnoVation somehow, some way. Maybe INnoVation starting those a bit later. So, you know, maybe he can hit a timing with 2-2 or something like that if he wants to try to go for that.
Yeah, just looking at this situation here, we've noticed a trend of Terran players switching away from Liberators to this. Oh, this is surprising. INnoVation, of course, scouts it immediately, but this is the kind of move that will force a Terran to go back into his base. It's expensive, yeah, but I mean, he's not going to commit to this. He pulled INnoVation away from his base. Now look at the minimap. It looks like he might wanted to attack while this run into the main base was happening, but he wasn't in position enough. He wasn't like fast enough on the draw to actually go over and hit that third base. But what if his units were in position and he does this? Maybe he can force a lift on the third CC.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I'd like that.
DeParture now going to try to take a fight in the middle of the map here before the tanks are dropped down. Either way, he's going to force INnoVation to drop the tanks and maybe even try to force some stims out here. But at the same time, he's trying the army out of position again, and he's going to try to Nidus the main.
I really like how he's trying to pull INnoVation apart here. Oh, INnoVation actually going to go ahead and hard engage, but he's going to take a lot of damage on the siege tanks. As a result, 40 army supply bigger here for DeParture. The main base Nidus has been cleaned. INnoVation had to pull SCVs for that, though, and this is not DeParture's plan. It's not to actually win the game through the Nidus. He just wants to pick INnoVation's army apart, multitasking, because if he gets a few corrosive biles off on these tankabacks, the game ends, because that's the backbone of INnoVation's army.
Another big stim on this army. He does have enough medevacs to support this. He's trying to put on some damage toward this 4th base, but look at this. The tanks are left all alone, and a bunch of Ravagers are getting in the back.
Such a smart engage here by DeParture. He draws the bio away from the tanks and comes in on top of them. Corrosive biles on top of the medevacs as well, and huge damage. DeParture is making this comp work where Sue could not.
And now INnoVation is on the run. He doesn't have much of an army. A 1-1 upgraded army from DeParture and just a fantastic engage.
And a Nidus in the main.
Nidus
in the main, too. You could actually get here before INnoVation gets home.
It's going to force like whatever INnoVation has to go back and make sure he takes that out. He's going to be out of position. There's only 1 tank left over.
And he will kill it. And you know, he wanted to get on top of that ramp. He's not going to be able to, but look at this. A forward Nidus actually now to reinforce this attack. And INnoVation needs to win a fight here before those reinforcements come.
That's exactly what he's going to try to do here. He's going to stim forward, and he's taking out the majority of this army. The Nidus does get out, but he focuses it down immediately.
Very good execution here by INnoVation in what was briefly there a very dire situation. Don't forget, back at home, DeParture has Hive completed. He's going into Ultralisk Cavern. He's getting a few infestors out. He's got his +2 just now completing. But INnoVation's army is powerful, and again, this comp loses power over time once you have enough medevacs and upgraded bio.
Yeah, look at the army of DeParture, too. He's got a bunch of roaches, but no Ravagers in the mix. It's going to be very hard to try to zone this Terran army if you can't lay down corrosive biles. There aren't that many tanks. I don't actually see any tanks with this composition. In fact, he has 0. Yeah, but he still can't engage this with only roaches.
Exactly. He has so many Marauders with this, with the medevacs, and the attack speed of roaches, again, it's just so slow. And it's hard to actually kill these units before they get healed up by the medevacs. The corrosive biles have to be on point in order for him to win a fight. With those 2 infestors, maybe that's what locks those units down so those corrosive biles can hit. Let's see if he can make it work.
No pathogen gland, so he's got to wait until that energy gets up here on the infestor. Fantastic kiting from INnoVation to dodge the corrosive biles and shell the roaches at the same time. Really good splits here.
This is just so much bio. He just avoids the corrosive biles, sets back. And if you use them in a line like this, like DeParture's doing, it makes it even easier for INnoVation just to stim back in the same direction. Now with a huge concave, those biles not hitting anything. Bungle's going down, but maybe a bit too late.
Yeah, just not hitting enough stuff, and the army of DeParture finally gets cleaned up with just an extended push from INnoVation after taking a fantastic fight in the middle of the map.
Yeah, it's just too much. GG. DeParture doing everything he should after that failed all-in. A really nice transition there. But we are dealing with SK INnoVation. Now 6-1 after this win. Great splitting. Good micro versus that composition. A composition I feel like that unless you get the perfect biles, which is really on the Terran, not on you, like, you can't like out-bile the Terran's micro if he just out-micros you. Like the bile can't move and split with the army, so you cast it, the Terran splits. Until we find, I think, a way for Zergs to engage maybe from behind and flank with those biles or something, I think the bio army is just always going to win, even if it's 40 army supply down in both games. The one engage he got that worked was because he forced the bio away from the tanks, then he hit the tanks while the bio was stuck up at his 4th base, and that was a really smart way to engage. But every other time he had to engage straight up, INnoVation was microing just too well.
Yeah, I feel like it was also a bit of a misplay from INnoVation to not have his Medivacs in position and split his bio so far away to the point where he couldn't lift up those tanks. But DeParture took advantage of it, and he gave us a game that we were not expecting. We came into today saying these guys are going to get stomped, right? I mean, they didn't win a single game in the first round. But now they're coming in here and they're challenging SKT, the best team we have in all of Pro League, and they're making it interesting. So I really appreciate that from both Ryung and DeParture so far. We are going to go into Myungshik versus Gumiho, guys, after a short 3-minute break. We'll be right back here at the SPL.